When my daughter Hannah hung up on me for the third time that week without saying a single word, I sat in my kitchen staring at my phone, wondering how we'd gotten here. 6 months of complete silence. 6 months of calls that went straight to voicemail, texts left on read, birthday cards returned unopened. She'd cut me out of her life so completely that I'd started to feel like a ghost haunting the edges of her world. What Hannah didn't know, what she couldn't have known, was that someone had been listening to every word she said about me. Someone who was keeping track of every lie, every twisted story, every cruel thing she believed was true. And when that person finally spoke up, everything Hannah thought she knew about our family shattered like glass. If you're watching this, subscribe and let me know where you're watching from. Let me tell you how a mother's worst nightmare became the moment that saved us both. My name is Judith Rains. I'm 67 years old, a widow for 8 years, and the mother of one daughter who until 6 months ago was my entire world. Hannah is 42, a corporate attorney at a prestigious firm in Manhattan, married to a man named Christopher who always struck me as just a little too smooth, a little too charming. They have one son, my only grandchild, a sweet 7-year-old named Owen, who I haven't been allowed to see since last November. The silence started the day after Thanksgiving. We'd all gathered at Hannah and Christopher's brownstone in Brooklyn, the house I'd helped them with the down payment for, though Christopher liked to pretend that detail had been erased from history. Dinner was tense. It usually was when Christopher drank, which was often. He had this way of making small cutting remarks that everyone was supposed to laugh at, comments that weren't quite mean enough to call out but left you feeling diminished. "Judith, another glass of wine? I'd hate for you to drive home sober and waste all that practice you've had." Everyone laughed uncomfortably. I smiled tightly. Later, while I was helping Hannah clean up in the kitchen, Christopher came in with his phone, showing Hannah something on the screen. His voice was low, but I caught fragments. "Your mother's signature on the loan documents. Found them in the files. Can't believe she'd—" Hannah's face went pale. She looked at me, then back at Christopher, then at me again. "Mom, is this true?" "Is what true, sweetheart? Did you take out a loan using our house as collateral without telling us?" My blood went cold. "What number? Hannah, that's absurd. I would never—" Christopher held up his phone, showing a document with my signature on it. "This is a second mortgage on this property, signed 8 months ago. Your signature. $150,000 withdrawn from the equity." I stared at the document, my hands shaking. It looked official. It had my name, but I had never, ever signed anything like that. "I didn't sign this. Christopher, this isn't real. Someone forged." "Mom, stop." Hannah's voice was sharp, cold. "Just stop lying. Christopher found these in the safe. In our safe. With your signature. Hannah, please, you have to believe me. I would never steal from you. I would never forge documents. This is some kind of mistake, or— Get out!" Her voice was quiet but final. "Get out of my house. Hannah, please. Get out!" I left. What else could I do? My daughter was looking at me like I was a stranger, like I was a criminal. I drove home through tears so thick I could barely see the road. The next day, I tried calling. She didn't answer. I tried texting. No response. I drove to her house. She didn't open the door, though I could see her watching me from the upstairs window. After an hour of standing on her porch, begging through the door, Christopher finally came out. "Judith, you need to leave. Hannah doesn't want to see you. If you keep harassing her, we'll get a restraining order." "Christopher, please, I don't know what's happening, but I didn't sign any documents. Let me explain." "You're a liar and a thief." His voice was calm, almost pleasant, which made it worse. "You took advantage of your own daughter's trust. You stole from us, and now you're trying to gaslight her into thinking she's crazy. It's pathetic." He went back inside and locked the door. That was 6 months ago. I hired a lawyer. A handwriting expert analyzed the document and confirmed what I already knew. That wasn't my signature. Someone had forged it, and they'd done a decent job, but not good enough to fool an expert. I tried to show Hannah the analysis. She wouldn't meet with me. I tried to explain through emails. She blocked me. I sent registered letters. They came back unopened. I was losing my mind with grief and confusion. How had Christopher gotten that document? Who had forged it? And why was Hannah so willing to believe I'd betrayed her? My sister Evelyn came to stay with me in February. She lives in Charleston and hadn't seen me since Christmas. When she walked into my house and saw me, 20 pounds thinner, hollow-eyed, barely functioning, she was horrified. "Judy, my God, what's happened to you?" I told her everything. She listened, getting angrier by the minute. "This is insane. Hannah knows you. She knows you'd never do something like this." "She doesn't believe me, Evie. She won't even talk to me. Then we make her listen." "But how do you make someone listen when they've decided you're a liar?" Evelyn stayed for 2 weeks. She tried reaching out to Hannah directly, sending messages explaining that I had proof the signature was forged. Hannah responded once, "Mom has manipulated you too. Please stop contacting me." The breaking point came in March, Owen's 8th birthday. I sent a card and a present to Hannah's address, knowing it would probably be returned like all the others. Instead, I got a text from Christopher. "Stop sending things to our house. You're not Owen's grandmother anymore. You lost that right when you stole from us." I cried for 3 days straight. Evelyn threatened to fly back up from Charleston and beat some sense into everyone involved. But I told her there was no point. Hannah had made her choice. She'd chosen to believe Christopher over me, and there was nothing I could do about that. What I didn't know, what none of us knew, was that someone had been watching this whole nightmare unfold. Someone who'd been listening to every conversation, every accusation, every lie. And that person was about to change everything. Her name was Claire Novak, and she was Christopher's administrative assistant at his financial consulting firm. I'd met her twice, briefly, at company events Hannah had dragged me to over the years. She was in her late 50s, quiet and efficient, the kind of person who blended into the background while managing everything. In April, I got a phone call from a number I didn't recognize. "Mrs. Raines? This is Claire Novak. I work with Christopher." "Yes, I remember you. I need to meet with you. Today, if possible. There's something you need to know about what happened between you and your daughter." My heart started pounding. "What do you mean?" "Not over the phone. Can you meet me at the Blue Stone Cafe on Amsterdam Avenue at 2 p.m.? I was there by 1:30, so anxious I could barely breathe. Claire arrived at exactly 2 o'clock, carrying a leather portfolio. She looked nervous, kept glancing around like she expected someone to be watching. "Mrs. Raines, thank you for meeting me. I've been struggling with whether to come forward for months. But after what I overheard last week, I can't stay silent anymore." "What did you overhear?" She opened the portfolio and pulled out a stack of papers. "Christopher created those forged loan documents. I know because I saw him do it." The world tilted. "What?" 6 months ago, Christopher came to me and asked me to help him with some personal paperwork. He was always asking me to do things that weren't technically part of my job, personal errands, family stuff. I usually just went along with it because, well, he's the boss. He gave me several old documents with your signature on them, birthday cards, old letters, and asked me to scan them into high resolution. Why would he need that? I didn't know at the time. I thought maybe it was for a scrapbook or something for Hannah. But then, a few weeks later, I was in his office filing some papers, and I saw those same scans on his computer. He was using Photoshop to overlay your signature onto new documents, loan documents. He was creating forgeries. I felt sick. "Did you confront him?" I tried to. I said, "Christopher, what are you doing with those signatures?" He got very cold, very controlled. He said it was a family matter, that Judith had agreed to co-sign on some refinancing, but then got cold feet, and he was just helping move things along. He said if I mentioned it to anyone, including Hannah, I'd be fired for breaching confidentiality. "So you said nothing?" Claire's eyes filled with tears. "I said nothing. And I'm so sorry. I was scared of losing my job. I'm a single mother with 2 kids in college. I couldn't afford to be unemployed. But Mrs. Raines, I've watched what this has done to you and Hannah, and I can't stay quiet anymore." "Why now? What changed?" "Last week, I overheard Christopher on the phone. He was in his office, and I was right outside getting files from the cabinet. He didn't know I was there. He was talking to someone, I don't know who, about phase 2 of the plan. He said, 'The old woman is completely out of the picture now. Hannah won't speak to her. Next step is getting Hannah to sign over power of attorney. Once I have that, everything becomes easier.'" My blood ran cold. Power of attorney? He's planning something, Mrs. Raines. Something that involves having complete legal control over Hannah's finances and decisions. And he's already isolated her from the one person who might warn her, you. I stared at the documents Claire had brought. Bank statements showing Christopher's gambling debts. Credit card bills for expensive purchases Hannah probably didn't know about. Emails between Christopher and someone named Marcus Levine about asset protection strategies and spouse-proofing holdings. He's planning to divorce her, I said slowly. He's setting everything up so that when he files, he'll have already hidden or protected his assets, and he'll have power of attorney to control hers. Claire nodded. That's what I think too. And Mrs. Raines, there's something else. I've been listening, really listening, to the way Christopher talks about Hannah when she's not around, to clients, to colleagues. He calls her controlling and unstable. He makes jokes about her trust issues and implies she's paranoid. He's creating a narrative that would support a claim that she's not mentally competent to manage her own affairs. Exactly. I looked at this woman who'd finally found the courage to come forward, who was risking her job and possibly more to warn me. Claire, why are you really doing this? She looked down at her hands. Because 3 years ago, I watched my sister go through something similar. Her husband isolated her from her family, took control of her finances, and then cleaned her out in the divorce. She lost everything, including custody of her kids, because he'd built a case that she was mentally unstable. I didn't see it happening until it was too late. I won't let that happen to Hannah. What do? We tell Hannah. We show her everything. But Mrs. Raines, it has to be the right moment. If we approach her wrong, if Christopher finds out we're coming, he'll deny everything and paint me as a disgruntled employee and you as a desperate mother. So when? Claire pulled out her phone and showed me a calendar entry. Christopher is flying to Los Angeles next Tuesday for a client meeting. He'll be gone for 3 days. That's our window. The following Tuesday, at 10 a.m., Claire and I stood on Hannah's doorstep. Claire had called ahead, told Hannah there was an urgent matter regarding Christopher that she needed to discuss, something that couldn't be said over the phone or in front of him. When Hannah opened the door and saw me standing there with Claire, her face went hard. What is this? Mom, I told you. Hannah, please, Claire interrupted. Just give us 10 minutes. If you want us to leave after that, we will. But there are things about Christopher you need to know, and I'm the only witness. Hannah looked between us, confused and wary. Witness to what? To your husband forging your mother's signature on loan documents. To him planning to isolate you from your family. To him setting up financial structures that will leave you with nothing when he files for divorce. The color drained from Hannah's face. That's insane. Christopher wouldn't... May we come in? Claire's voice was gentle but firm. Please, Hannah, 10 minutes. We sat in Hannah's living room, the same room where I'd been banished 6 months ago, and Claire laid everything out. The forged documents, the overheard phone conversation, Christopher's debts, his pattern of talking about Hannah like she was unstable, the emails about asset protection. Hannah listened in silence, her face unreadable. When Claire finished, Hannah stood up and walked to the window, her back to us. Why should I believe any of this? Her voice was tight, controlled. Mom, you've been trying to come between Christopher and me for years. You never liked him. And Claire, you're his employee. If this is true, why didn't you say something 6 months ago? Because I was scared, Claire said simply, and I'm ashamed of that. But Hannah, I'm here now, and everything I've told you can be verified. The bank statements are real. The emails are real. The forged documents can be analyzed by experts. My mother already had experts analyze the signatures, Hannah said bitterly. She sent me a report. I assumed she'd paid someone to lie for her. Hannah, my voice cracked, do you really think I would forge documents to steal from you? Do you really think, after raising you alone, after everything we've been through together, that I would betray you like that? She turned around, and for the first time in 6 months, she really looked at me. I saw her taking in my weight loss, my gray hair that I'd stopped coloring, the exhaustion in my eyes. I don't know what to think anymore, she whispered. Then think about this, I said. Why would Christopher have a document with my forged signature in your safe? If I'd really taken out that loan, the documents would be at a bank, filed officially. Why would they be in your personal safe, perfectly positioned for him to discover them? I saw the moment it clicked. Her eyes widened slightly. "And think about this," Claire added gently. "In the 6 months since this happened, has Christopher encouraged you to reconcile with your mother? Or has he reinforced the separation, reminded you constantly that she betrayed you, made sure you stayed angry?" Hannah sank back onto the couch. "He talks about it all the time. How I'm better off without toxic people in my life. How I need to protect Owen from people who can't be trusted. How—" She stopped, her voice breaking. "Oh God, he's been coaching me. Every time I wavered, every time I thought maybe I should at least hear Mom out, he'd remind me of what she did and how I needed to stay strong." "That's called gaslighting," Claire said quietly. "And it's what abusers do when they're trying to isolate their victims." "Christopher isn't an abuser," Hannah said automatically. Then she paused. "Is he?" I moved to sit beside her, careful not to touch her, giving her space. "Honey, I don't know. But I know what I see in these documents. And I know that a man who would forge documents to turn you against your own mother is capable of other things too." Hannah put her head in her hands. "I called you terrible things. I believed you stole from me. I kept Owen from you. Mom, what have I done?" "You believed someone you love," I said gently. "That's not your fault. That's what he counted on." Over the next 3 days, while Christopher was in Los Angeles, Hannah quietly did her own investigation. She went through their financial records, finding discrepancies and hidden accounts. She talked to a divorce attorney on Claire's recommendation. She had the loan documents analyzed again by a different expert who confirmed they were forgeries. And she installed security cameras and recording devices throughout the house, preparing for the confrontation she knew was coming. When Christopher came home Friday evening, suitcase in hand and his usual charming smile in place, Hannah was waiting in the living room. So was I, and so was a police officer and Hannah's new divorce attorney. The smile slid off Christopher's face. "Hannah, what's going on? Sit down, Christopher. We need to talk about some documents you forged." I watched him cycle through reactions in seconds. Confusion, indignation, concern, and finally, cold calculation. He looked at me, and I saw pure hatred flash through his eyes before he composed himself. "I have no idea what you're talking about." "We have a witness," Hannah said calmly. "Your assistant Claire saw you create the forged loan documents. She has copies of the original documents you scanned my mother's signature from. She recorded the conversation where you talked about phase 2 of your plan. And Christopher, I've been through our finances. I found the gambling debts, the hidden credit cards, the offshore account you thought I didn't know about." He stood up. "This is ridiculous. I'm calling my lawyer." "Please do," Hannah's attorney said, "because we'll be filing fraud charges, forgery charges, and identity theft charges. The police are very interested in talking to you." Christopher looked at each of us, his jaw tight. Finally, he turned to Hannah. "You're really going to believe them over me? Your own husband?" "My husband wouldn't have turned me against my own mother with lies," Hannah said, her voice steady despite the tears on her cheeks. "My husband wouldn't have forged documents and hidden money. My husband wouldn't have used isolation and manipulation to control me. So no, Christopher, I don't know who you are, but you're not my husband. You never were." He left with the police that night. The divorce proceedings started the following week. Hannah got a restraining order. Claire kept her job. Hannah made sure of that, even offering to cover any legal fees if Christopher tried to retaliate. And Hannah and I, we sat together in her kitchen that night after everyone had left, drinking tea like we used to when she was young and had problems she needed to talk through. "Mom, I'm so sorry," she kept saying. "I should have known. I should have believed you." "You believed the evidence in front of you," I said. "That's what he was counting on. Honey, this isn't your fault. I kept Owen from you. 6 months of his life you can never get back. But I can have the rest of his life, if you'll let me." She gripped my hand so tightly. "I was so horrible to you. You were scared and confused and manipulated, but you found your way back. That's what matters. How did you survive it? 6 months of me hating you, believing the worst about you?" After months of pain, truth set us free. Christopher awaits trial and Hannah's rebuilding. We talk daily, closer than ever. Love, I've learned, endures lies, loss, and time. It never gives up.